Joan and Laurie are with Baltimore County Public Schools, and we are delighted to have you with us this evening.
Thank you. We're delighted to be here. I'm Joey Parr, and I'm with the Office of Psychological Services as a school psychologist, and I've been with the school system for over 25 years now. And my passion has been social emotional development of children. Laurie?
Hi, I'm Laurie Appleby. I'm also a staff psychologist in Baltimore County Public Schools. I've been in Baltimore County for about 23 years now, and I currently serve a few schools in the Northwest area. I serve Chatsworth School and Franklin Elementary School.
Thank you. As representatives of Team BCPS, Laurie and I would like to thank our Baltimore County Library partners for inviting us to come to this presentation today. And we're very excited to share with you tonight some information about the importance of a routine. So we'd like for you to just kind of hopefully take out the next 50 minutes or so to just kind of relax and reflect on some of the thoughts that we might be able to share with you and the questions and answers that we'll be discussing towards the end of the program. Again, if you have any problems with the technical issues, we encourage you to put that in the chat box and then to use the Q&A box if you'd like to ask a question, and Danielle will keep track of them for us towards the end of the presentation. We'd like to give a big shout out to Baltimore County Parent University. We know that parents have a huge job, especially in this situation of our virtual learning for our schools this semester. And we want to make sure that all of our attendees are aware that there is the Parent University on our Baltimore County website, which is designed to help you as parents with your students, your children, but also to help you as adults, as learners. So there's many resources and information that might be of interest in terms of professional learning that you can also access on that particular website. But first, I just want to say, and I guess all of us know that for just about everybody out there, our world has turned upside down in this world of COVID. And we don't know how much has affected everybody else because everybody has their own level of changes that they've had to endure with what has happened. And so we have a new normal, and we're not even sure what that new normal is because sometimes it changes from day to day depending upon what's going on for us. But we know that we're starting a new semester with our children at school, and we're starting off virtually, and we're hoping that tonight we're going to give you some tips to identify the importance of a routine for you at home. So our objectives today are to include and share some of those strategies with you, and we'll also be providing some resources and examples in the presentation itself, but we'll also be following up with some resources and attachments that we'll be sending out to all of our members who have provided an email address to the library. So that will be coming to you shortly. So as parents, we know that you've more or less taken on a job that maybe you didn't request. And so in this world of virtual learning, not only are you a parent, you're also a working parent in whatever shape or form that may take, but also you're involved with teaching your child. And these jobs are not easy, number one. And number two, they're very difficult to do at the same time. Because if you know that if you're employed full time, you have to determine how are you going to be working with your child as they're doing their schoolwork, or whether you have to work out some daycare opportunities for your child, if you have to leave and go somewhere for your particular job. But we're all doing the best that we can. And one of the big takeaway messages that we hope that you'll learn tonight is that when you have to select what you want to do, always err on the side of what's best for your child emotionally. Because academically, we're going to help all kids catch up at whatever point that may be. But it's important that you be there for your emotional development of your child. So if your child is stressed, take a moment away from the academics and make sure that you're addressing those needs that your child may have. So it's important to always be thinking about how can you best support your child emotionally. So we know that it's very difficult to balance the academics. You see the cat in the hat over there, and he's trying to make sure everything stays in the air. And many of us as parents feel the same way. How to keep all the balls up in the air, keep that balancing act going without things crashing down around us. Well, similarly, we're also being concerned about the emotional well-being for our children and for ourselves. And you've probably heard from a number of different, whether it be speakers or information that you've received through emails or whatever, the importance of self-care and the importance of making sure that we as adults are taking care of ourselves so that we have the emotional ability and the emotional strength to be able to care for our children. So it is a matter of balancing the academics as well as the emotional needs of children. So on to our presentation. We're going to talk about three big ticket items in terms of setting routines, setting home expectations, and thinking about teaching, reminding, and rewarding expectations, and a little bit more beyond that. But it's important to think about setting routines, because when you set routines, that provides a sense of stability and consistency and predictability. And the advantage of having predictability is that it helps decrease anxiety. If we don't know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, or what we're going to be expected to do, for some people, it can cause quite a bit of anxiety. So if we can develop the structure and the routines for our children, they will know what we expect and they will know what they need to do. And that will help them with that level of anxiety they might have otherwise. And if you think about it, many times when you were raising your young child, you probably had a certain bedtime for them, a certain time when you had their meals, a certain times when they did certain things. Well, now that your child is at home with you all day long, we're going to look at setting up some of those same kind of routines. So an example might be something like this. In the morning, there'll be something like getting ready to learn and what we call a morning check-in. And a morning check-in might be just, how are you doing today? Did you get enough sleep? Are you feeling okay? Is there anything I could do for you, etc.? So looking at that, moving forward, we've got the morning movement, we've got a structured learning, a lunch check-in, afternoon learning activities, and afternoon movement, social connection, and then evening and family time. So what does that look like? Let's fill the blanks in and see what that might be. So the getting ready to learn is sort of the wake-up routine. What happens in the morning, how the student gets ready, the student or child gets ready for their day, eating the breakfast, getting ready to start his or her day. The morning check-in, as I said, is more or less just getting a barometer or a test on how the child is feeling, and if there's anything you could do to make things better for them. Then we have some morning movement, for example. There might be an opportunity for a walk outside or stretching exercises or whatever. And then we have the structured learning. Now, this year for Baltimore County Public Schools, the students will be having far more face time with their teacher and far more independent work than we had in the spring when we were doing continuity of learning. So you'll want to pay careful attention to what that structured learning time needs to be for your child based upon what information your teachers are sharing with you. And in this situation, moving on to lunch, checking in, having a healthy lunch, and then again, repeating some of those same activities in the afternoon, the learning activities, the opportunity for movement, the opportunity for social connection, which is really important because we know that kids have friends. They have the opportunity to either call or, depending upon your neighborhood, whether there's an opportunity to get outside and socially distance and ride bikes or something like that. And then in the evening time, what kind of family time you have and what your ritual is for your bedtime. So if we look at a secondary example, so for those of you who have adolescents in middle school or high school, that particular schedule might look a little bit different, but again, we have the same sort of examples of making sure there's exercise built in, that we've made sure that we've worked in some sort of the time for schooling, as well as those check-ins and the time for social connection. We want to make sure that we've built all that into their schedule in some way, shape, or form. I will say that it's important to make sure that build in those breaks. And I know our teachers are focusing quite a bit on making sure there's brain breaks and opportunities to stretch and move and things like that. So in addition to what your teacher has planned for your students, you might also want to make sure that your children take that opportunity for breaks, whether it be just to be able to get up and stretch a bit or walk around the room or go in and get a little snack or something like that. Activity and movement are absolutely crucial for kids. And we know that fresh air is wonderful. So we want to make sure that kids get fresh air opportunity every day. Sunshine and vitamin D is important for kids. The other thing I would say too about making sure that you build in not just those larger muscle brain breaks, you want to make sure that your child is taking a little bit of time away from the eye strain that might develop by staring at a screen for a good bit of the day. Now we've learned that there's something called computer vision syndrome, which is a digital eye strain. And so one of the techniques that is often suggested to make sure that we're not spending too much time focused on our screen is to do what they call the 20-20-20, which is every 20 minutes, make sure you look in a distance of about 20 feet for about 20 seconds. The other eye exercise that you could do is look into the distance for a short period of time, then looking close up, into the distance, close up, into the distance, close up, and do that 10 times. So again, making sure that your eyes are getting a break as well is important to be thinking about. The second option is thinking about how to set home expectations. So in all of our Baltimore County public schools, we have a code of conduct. Now, some schools might call it a code of conduct, they might call it an oath, they might call it a pledge, they might call it whatever, because schools do tend to personalize these things. But usually it's said in the morning with the general announcements. An example might be, I will be respectful, I will be responsible, I will be safe. So what we're suggesting to you is to think about what your code of conduct is for your child's school and create that same sort of code of conduct and use that code of conduct to develop your home expectations. So if we look at the code of conduct, for example, in the school, we have what it looks like to be respectful, responsible, and safe in the different areas in which you go in the school building. So in the classroom, for example, you would be raising your hand before speaking. You would be speaking kindly to others as a way to show respect. You would be responsible by turning in your homework when it's due or following adult directions. And you would be safe by sitting properly in your chair and keeping your hands and feet to yourself. And on and on. And there are obviously specific rules related to those expectations in the cafeteria, during dismissal, in the hallways, in the nurse's office, wherever you go in the school building. So I would suggest to you, you might want to think about what would those home expectations look like in your home following the code of conduct of your school. And so this particular slide talks about being respectful, being responsible, and being safe in home. And obviously one of the big items will be the virtual classroom. This is something basically we started in the spring, but we'll be continuing this fall as well. So thinking about being respectful in your virtual classroom at home might include things like keeping the background noise to a minimum, or at least keeping your microphone on mute. So if there is any other sibling in the room that maybe is not involved in school, is in a conversation with other siblings or something like that, that won't be interfering with the school environment for your particular child who is engaged in a virtual lesson. Being respectful would also be following the teacher's instructions, for example. A way to show being responsible would be making sure they're doing their schoolwork on time and also working to do their best. And then we know that being safe might include things like sitting properly in your chair, keeping your food and drink away from the devices so that we don't have accidents and safety issues with regard to that. Thinking, just kind of playing this out, for mealtime, it might include things like being respectful by being kind to your family members while you're having conversations around the table, being responsible by making sure you washed your hands before you're eating, helping to clean up, doing the chores, and then being safe might be keeping your feet on the floor. And then for the final one, where we have, be safe, it might include being respectful to your parents when they remind you it's time to go to bed, and then following all the directions that you need to, and then making sure that you wash your face, brush your teeth, do all those kinds of things, getting ready for bed. Okay, so when you're doing your what we call a matrix, you might want to consider some other areas. And again, how elaborate you make your home matrix depends upon you and your sense or need of control and your child and how much structure they require. So for example, you might want to have a column about what do we do during breakfast time? What do we do during learning time? What do we do during meal time? What do chores look like? What do we do in the evening time? What do we do when mom and dad are in meetings? And what do you do when you're frustrated? What do you do when you disagree with someone? And I have an example. I know it's very difficult to see this particular chart probably on your computers at home, but it will be one of the attachments that we'll send out. And one of the things that I particularly like about this particular example of a matrix is it has included what to do when the parents are in meetings, because many parents are now working from home. And so you're balancing your obligations to your job working from home with making sure that your kids are also involved in their virtual lessons through school. So you can identify specifically what are the expectations of your child around the issues of responsibility, respectfulness, and being ready with regard to what happens when mom and dad need to be in meetings for work. And that might include things like, that would be when you have work time on your own, so it's independent time. And if your child is finished with their work, then they have certain activities that they know that they can engage in. So you will have already discussed certain kinds of playtime activities or certain kinds of recreational activities, or when the television is allowed to be accessed, those kinds of things will already have been identified for your child. Being respectful, using a silent voice or a whisper voice so that you're not interfering with your parents' work situation. And maybe trying to keep questions to a minimum so that your child is not interrupting you while you're at work. And then a child, quote, being ready. In this particular school, they had being responsible, be respectful, and be ready. And being ready is more or less being prepared. So they have making sure that you know what tasks you need to do, and that maybe checking off when you're finished the tasks that were expected of you. So that would be an example of following through and identifying very clearly what are those expectations you have for your students around those system-wide expectations on that left-hand side, that responsibility, respectful, and ready. This particular chart talks also about what to do when you're frustrated or what to do when you disagree with someone. And the reason why I have chosen to include them is because in schools, we work hard to try to teach students coping skills or what to do when problems occur. So you may want to reinforce some of those particular coping skills that you as a family think are important. So when kids are having difficulty, what are the go-to calming strategies you want your child to use when they're feeling frustrated, when they're having difficulty, when somebody is bothering them, and to be able to identify what they are and include them in this chart. In this section, we're going to talk about being teach, remind, and reward. And we know that providing positive feedback or positive reinforcement has been shown to be very effective in changing behavior. And I often tell teachers that if there's only one thing you can do to change behavior, what I would suggest you do is every time the child does what you want them to do, you comment with a positive statement to the child. And that in and of itself can change their behavior in a positive direction. We also know that modeling the behavior you want your child to learn is also crucial. But we also understand that sometimes it's very difficult, especially with today's world, today, as with the amount of stress many of us are dealing with, that sometimes we have our good days and sometimes we have our bad days. So self-control is something that we always need to be thinking about, and we want to make sure that we try to model that for our children as well as possible so that they understand how to develop those coping skills that we want them to learn. So if we think about teaching, reminding, and rewarding with positive feedback, we have a chart here, and again, the print might be somewhat small, but I'll go through, for example, I'm just going to pick being responsible. So say, for example, you want to encourage your child to be responsible by doing their best work. The way you would go about doing that through teach, remind, and reward is, number one, describing what you mean by doing your best. So you want to make sure that the student or the child understands your expectations very clearly. Give them examples of what it looks like to do their work well, so that they know what it means to focus on their work. They know what it means to be able to listen to directions. What do they need to do to ask for help? And also to make sure that they learn that sometimes work is hard, but you stick with it until you get it done. And then reminding is what I call pre-corrections, which is reminding the child to do something before they have a chance to do it wrong. So as much as possible, you want to provide those pre-corrections or those opportunities to remind the child of what you want them to do. And then following that up with making sure that you're rewarding with positive feedback. And positive feedback, I think as parents, we all use it at various points in time. But positive feedback is something as simple as, you've done a great job. I like the way you did your homework on time, and it's complete. So you want to be very specific about that behavior to try to use what we call behavior specific praise, not just good job, but actually to identify the behavior and what they did, and that it's pleased you. Some parents tie that with a positive reinforcement. For example, they might award points, or they might say, if you've done a good job all week long and gotten all your homework done or all your schoolwork done, we'll do something special on Friday night, or you can earn extra television time or whatever, which would be a reinforcer that you could also tie in to encourage kids to do what you want them to do. So these are just other slides talking more about the specifics of what that would be like. So for example, if you were doing being safe by washing your hands, you want to make sure that children know exactly how to wash their hands according to your expectations, not just go in and throw some water on their hands, but I know the nurses in the schools talk about singing the ABCs, or making sure that you have washed your hands with soap and that you've washed your hands for a certain length of time, and making sure that your children are doing exactly the techniques that you want them to use. And then sometimes you need to remind them, and that might be before meals or before and after they use their bathroom or whatever, and making sure that they are using that wash hands procedure, because that's part of being safe. And then again, the idea of rewarding with positive feedback. You did a great job washing your hands. I could tell you were in there singing your ABCs, and great job. I talked about pre-corrections as a way to make sure that your students and children are being reminded of what you want them to do. We talk about the importance of a 5-to-1 ratio. And by this, I mean that we want to front end the amount of praise we give students, as opposed to the amount of corrective comments we might need to make. The reality is, all of us as human beings remember when people say negative things to us. And so no matter how positive somebody's trying to be, we tend to remember that one time they said something critical to us. So if we want to change behavior, we want to make sure that we're thinking about a 5-to-1 ratio of 5 positive praise statements to every one time we might need to correct someone. So just try to keep that in mind. So catch them being good, Comment when you see they're doing what you want them to do. I know sometimes when kids are engaged and doing the right thing, sometimes we're afraid that if we say something, we'll kind of disrupt their good behavior by interfering, by saying something good, but always err on the side of praise. It will serve you well. We do know that behavior is your child's way of communicating. So sometimes kids don't have the words to tell us what's going on with them. We know that they can be frustrated. We know that they can be stressed. We know that they can be hungry. They can be tired. And the way they usually tell us is by grumpy, irritable behavior. So sometimes you have to look behind that behavior to see what might be going on with your child. And so oftentimes what we want to do is think about helping our children label their emotions and their feelings, help them understand how they're feeling. So if we sense that they're tired, or we sense they were up late last night and they're just really what I call grumpy, that's what I always called my kids, but help them identify what those feelings are, because as they learn to self-identify, then they can learn the coping skills to adapt to them and to overcome those feelings. So in our schools, oftentimes we use visuals to help students understand, and you could use smiley charts. There are a number of different charts that you can get off the internet that have, happy, sad, angry faces that children can just point to the face to help them explain how they're feeling. We also know we want children to have opportunities to have acceptable choices to go along with their feelings, and to give them opportunities to practice strategies for problem solving, which is almost a whole topic in and of itself. So I'm just going to leave it at that for right now in terms of that problem solving. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and Lori will begin.
Okay, let me just get set. And thank you, Joey. And yes, just to reiterate, we don't want to forget the support of our children's social emotional well-being. Within the schools, we do know that children are not ready to learn unless their social emotional needs are met. It's a definite situation when we have children who aren't set and ready to learn because of their social emotional needs. So as parents, we just need to be mindful of that and how we want to incorporate meeting the social emotional needs of our children into our daily routine. What you feed will grow. There is a lot of potential for stress and doubt and parent guilt and parent worry and so many things, especially in the world we are living in currently. But ultimately, we love our children and we want to focus on that. And when we focus on that and we start there, the rest will follow. I can only speak for myself, but I feel like when, as a mom, when my firstborn, the minute my firstborn was born, I started to experience that mommy guilt. And the moms out there may recognize this as well. And any dads that are out there, I'm sure you have your own version of the parent guilt that comes automatically with having children. But what we choose to feed will grow. So supporting our children's social emotional well-being. It all starts with the individual. It all starts with the individual child and knowing your child and recognizing what your child's strengths and needs are. And if you have more than one child, you, I'm sure, can appreciate the array of individual differences. That it's amazing sometimes how children from the exact same family can have very, very different personalities and very different strengths and very different needs. But at the end of the day, we love them all equally. But it's a matter of, understanding those individual differences and meeting children where they are and finding that healthy balance. Just spending time with your children. It sounds so simple, but just the value of time and putting down the electronics and turning the television off and just having that time, that concentrated time with your child is so, so very powerful. Years and years ago, there was all that research about when the debate about working mothers was there, about working outside of the home versus being a stay-at-home mom. And the bottom line is, it's the quality of your time with your children that is the most predictive and the most important factor in supporting your children's emotional well-being and general growth and development. It's not how much time, it's the quality of that time. So when you are having that time with your children, make sure that it is concentrated time with your child, not with your child and all your Facebook friends, just with your child. It's just very important to bear that in mind. That first end strategy is tried and true. Sometimes we call it when then, sometimes we call it must do's versus may do's. But that is the strategy of pairing those lesser preferred, not necessarily non-preferred, but maybe the lesser preferred activities with those preferred ones. And after we do the activity that maybe there might be some pushback from, then we get to do the things that we are enjoying and are looking forward to. So that's a very strong tool to use. Encouraging outside time with supervision. Again, our world is upside down, but nature is not closed. Nature will never be closed. It's just so powerful to be out and enjoying and appreciating nature. I'm sure everyone has heard the trendy terms of grounding and earthing and those types of things that people seem to be talking about a lot these days. And the physiological and the psychological effects that are connected with being out in nature and being out and about and connecting with the earth. So just something to bear in mind as you're incorporating those social emotional supports into your daily routine. Mindfulness. This is just an area that has taken off in recent years. There is just lots and lots of research out there about in the realm of mindfulness. There's actually even a mindfulness awareness research center based out of UCLA that just generates so much research about mindfulness. And we've probably all heard the term. And a lot of people think mindfulness means yoga or meditation or specific techniques. Really, mindfulness, when it boils right down to it, mindfulness is really just that concentrated focus and that sensory awareness of being aware of yourself and being aware of your senses and connecting with those sensory experiences. This works very, very well when out and about in nature, to just isolate one sense at a time. What am I seeing? And concentrate on what you're seeing for 20, 30 seconds. What am I hearing? Concentrate on what you're hearing for a certain amount of time. The benefits of mindfulness activities have been researched and they have been proven. And some of the benefits include decreasing stress, decreasing anxiety, increasing someone's ability to focus and sustained attention, self-regulation, self-control. The list goes on and on, social and relational skills, reduced symptoms of burnout for us adults, enhanced job performance, increased coping ability. Like I said, the list goes on and on. But it's very, very simple, and it's free, doesn't cost any money to engage in mindfulness activities, but the benefits are really amazing. And those relaxation and deep breathing techniques are definitely useful in creating that sense of calm, creating just a peaceful mindset in order to recharge and um, just reset in order to increase that whole readiness to learn. Those of you with elementary school age children, I'm sure you've heard of conscious discipline. That is a methodology that the elementary schools adopted a number of years ago. These days, it goes from pre-K through 4th grade as far as direct programming in things like mindfulness, in positive routines, in self-control techniques, in recognizing and addressing those social emotional needs of children. So there are everyday routines and activities with mindfulness built in that our elementary school children are experiencing, and they will continue to do this in the virtual instruction. There are several mindfulness apps that are out there that are free. If you just search free mindful apps for kids, there are many different things out there that kids enjoy and they connect with. I said put the electronics down before, but you know, kids like their electronics, and so to incorporate some of these mindfulness activities in with the apps, like I said, they're free and they're out there. Social time. In this day and age, isolation is unfortunate. And we are all in our homes and we are all plugged into our computers. So the importance of wherever and whenever possible to engage in that social time really is critical. We at the school level, we have lots of conversations about this, about how to incorporate that social time and to keep those social skills up even during this time of isolation. So it's just something, again, to think about and how to incorporate this into your routines. Telephone calls, FaceTime, obviously very beneficial. I know a lot of families who are spending those times getting together with grandparents or other relatives out in a park and keeping social distance when necessary, but you know, still having those interpersonal interactions are definitely important, just to keep that sense of connectedness and a sense of social awareness. There is just a lot of research and support for kindness and gratitude and generosity as being important, and the positive effects on children and adults, body and mind, the positive effects of maintaining kindness routines, kindness rituals, especially during this time, is definitely something to keep in mind. There's some tips here on maintaining a routine of kindness during these difficult times, and really during any time. Difficult or not so difficult, these are just helpful hints and factors that do promote that social emotional well-being. Keeping your sleep schedule, managing hygiene, kindness and gratitude, getting out there in nature, like we already said, that social connectedness, spending a little time, you know, just together and with your pets if you have any. I know my dog is the happiest she's been in several years since our shutdown, because she gets a lot of walks. But just spending that time with your pets, staying hydrated, developing self-care plan for yourself. And Joey mentioned this earlier, that we as parents, we're taking on an awful lot, and it's potentially very, very stressful. So concentrating on our own self-care is not selfish. It is absolutely essential, that we are kind to ourselves and we recognize our own needs and meet those needs. finding a reason to smile every day. It may sound simple, but it's just putting that smile on your face um, actually has neurochemical benefits, and it just makes you feel good, and being grateful. There are a lot of different sites out there that give several specific examples and suggestions on just very simple things to do to keep your social emotional well-being. If you just Google kindness calendars, mental health awareness, and this was for the month of May, just giving a daily suggestion. So if you want to follow those, or just, for some examples, they have them right there, and they're simple things like spending time talking about your family's strengths, getting a good night's sleep, asking for help, the importance of that. So just simple things to just focus on that social emotional well-being. There's another example from Random Acts of Kindness Foundation. Things for both gratitude and giving and thankfulness. And like I said, there's several examples out there. So in our everyday routines, we talked about structure, we talked about expectations, we talked about all those good things, but guess what? Every day is not going to work out the way we're planning it. The best laid plans are the best laid plans, and we are all human beings, and our children are definitely human beings. So we need to anticipate the challenges, but the more we plan for that and the more we anticipate that, the better off we will be when they appear. So prevention is key. In the schools, we emphasize in all of our positive behavioral support plans, we always emphasize the prevention. How do we set an environment in order to prevent the challenging behavior? Prevention, when done with routine and consistency, it's always easier than addressing negative behavior when it happens. Knowing our children do tend to have triggers that we can identify different trends. So knowing what those triggers are in our children and anticipating those and trying to address them through routines and schedules really can prevent a whole lot. Common triggers in the home setting are things like bedtime routines, or just getting ready for bed, getting ready for and going to bed. That's a common one. Transitions, transitioning out of preferred activities and getting back to work or getting to homework, those types of things. Knowing what those potential stressful times of the day are and planning accordingly really can prevent a lot of challenging behaviors. Consistency is absolutely critical. Consistency in routines you want. And as the adults, we do set the tone for the family. Obviously, the current situation is challenging for everyone, but with the planning up front and with the emphasis on routine and consistency, we can all fare a little bit better. We do want to choose our battles. This is very critical across all ages, but it looks a little different in the younger children versus the teenagers. But having a mindset of choosing our battles helps us not engage in as many battles as maybe if we don't have that mindset. We want to say what we mean and mean what we say. When we set limits and when we refer back and remind and pre-correct for the expectations. We need to stay consistent and just stick with it. That's a very difficult thing as a parent, and I could speak from personal experience. But the more we remain consistent and the more we remain calm and don't let our own emotions get into situations and refer back to the family routines and the family expectations, the better off we will be. Providing choices as possible throughout the day. This is just something that we can incorporate into, really a lot of the portions of our day, particularly during those break times. Having those choices really does help kids feel a sense of control, especially in this day and age when so much feels like it's completely out of our control. As many choices as possible. We always just want to set 2 choices and allow our children to have those choices really does benefit. We, like I said, are human beings. Some days will work better than others. Being flexible and just lightening up on ourselves a little bit. It's okay if we deviate from the schedule sometimes. It's okay. We need to take care of our needs in order to be able to take care of our children's needs. I'm sure a lot of you have heard the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. But if we concentrate on ourselves and taking care of ourselves, then we can show up to be the best parents that we can be. But knowing that we are all human and we all make mistakes and we roll with it, it's okay. It is okay. And yes, no one is perfect. I feel like in this day and age, there's just a lot of pressure on parents to just be these perfect people. This parenting perfectionism, I feel, is just something that takes on a life of its own sometime. But nobody's perfect. We all have our difficult days. And don't believe everything you see on social media, because people only post the wonderful things they're doing. Everybody has a bad day, and everybody is human, and everybody is fallible. So please do not be too hard on yourself or your children. We'll get through it. We'll get through it together. Tomorrow's a new day. If you feel inclined, you could Google something called the good enough parent style, good enough parenting. It's a whole other realm of ideas out there on parenting and how we need to not be so perfectionistic as parents and not put so much stress and pressure on ourselves. Because again, what good are we for our children if we do that to ourselves and if we don't take care of ourselves first? Help is available. Again, we are all in this together. Please do not hesitate to reach out to your schools. We are, in this day and age, we are partners in education like never before. And school staff really does emphasize the parent-school relationships and the importance of that. So we do encourage you to reach out to your school-based support staff. Every school has at least one, often a few different school counselors. Reach out to your school counselors. Every school does have a school psychologist assigned to them. Not necessarily there all day, every day, but assigned to their school. Not every school has a school social worker, but those schools that do, you are probably already aware of them. So reach out. Like I said many times over, we are all in this together, and those of us on the school end really understand and emphasize the parent connections. We, like Toby mentioned, we have a resource page with several of the things that we mentioned, a lot of websites and a lot of parent resources that will be forthcoming. And the link here is to the Department of Social Emotional Support, and that will be on the resource page as well. We can't thank you enough, parents, for all you do to support our students. Parenting is, I'm just speaking for myself, but I feel like parenting is the most difficult yet most rewarding job in the entire world. But yes, it is difficult, and we want to thank you for everything. In a lot of my school meetings, we end with what we call a commitment. And we make a commitment for something that we want to either change or do a little bit differently or start or initiate. So as parents, if you just want to take a minute and reflect on some of the things you heard today and just make a commitment to yourself on maybe one thing that you want to either initiate or do a little bit differently, just one thing, and make that commitment and maybe start as soon as tomorrow. I think we'll open it up to any questions that we have now.
Okay, so as of right now, we do not have anything in the Q&A, but while we're giving people a few extra minutes to type up any questions they may have, I'm just going to speak on the library's side of routines. I know for many parents, it was a routine to take your children to the library and browse and do programming and all of that. And trust me, we understand how difficult, again, as mentioned, this has been for everyone. So until our branches reopen, and no, at this time, we do not have a date as to when we will reopen, you can feel free to browse our catalog with your child, bcpl.info, look up books online, use our databases, so you can create a new routine now that still, kind of gets you involved with the library. Unfortunately, no, you won't be browsing inside the branches, but at least you can start a new routine right now of getting your children used to using our databases, get them adjusted to using our databases, placing items on hold. And if at any time you have any questions, you can call any of our branches with the exception of Reisterstown. They are closed for renovations, but leave a message and a BCPL staff member will get back to you within 1 to 2 business days. So it looks like we do have a question. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, yes. I see Blessed Daycare. Yes, the library time was part of our daycare routine. Yeah, I understand. It is hard not having a part of your regular routine available to you. Just know we are doing all that we can in the library to be there for everyone. So thank you, thank you, thank you for those who are continuing to put on items on hold, doing curbside. That can be part of your routine for now. Baltimore County Public Library is constantly putting up programming. So again, check out our YouTube pages so that you can access some of that programming when it is best fit for you. All right, let's see. Oh, thank you. Blessed Daycare said great job with the online teachers card renewal. They renewed today and they have 30 items on hold. So yes, just know we are still open in the extent of you can place items on hold. You can do curbside pickup. We are here for you, but we are here for you in a different model. And definitely continue to look at our website for any updates for additional things that may be coming, such as extended curbside, when we will reopen to the public. So yes, just keep your eye on our website, bcpl.info. That is definitely where you want to go for any updated information. Still don't have any questions right now. Erin, do you have anything that you would like to add?
Yes. All right. So one thing actually I think was mentioned in the meeting that we were in today is that our mobile youth services said that any daycares that are interested can reach out to them. Their number would be available, or email address, contact information available through our website. So if that is a question that you have that you would like to arrange some sort of a visit with them, you could certainly reach out to them. Again, that's the Youth and Family Engagement Mobile Engagement Unit. All right, and well, I think we are just about out of time, and I know there is quite some lightning around me, and I've had my screen blip a few times, and I'm really, really grateful to our presenters for joining us today. Thank you so much, Joey and Laurie, for all of the information. And oh, I see it. One more question. I'm sorry. Let's see. It looks like, will we get the PowerPoint after the presentation? I believe you said there, Laurie and Joey, that there are a lot of the resources from that PowerPoint that you'll be sending out. We'll be sending out a follow-up email.
We will be sending out a follow-up email. I think I've already sent you the information, and once you are able to create your distribution list of the participants and attendees, then you can send it out to them.
Great.
If there's somebody in particular that would like the PowerPoint itself, if you would email me, I'd be happy to present it to you. I'd be happy to share it with you. I don't think we want to necessarily share it to everybody because it's fairly large, and we want to be respectful of your storage of your particular internet access, etc. So rather than sending out to everybody, if you would just let me know, I'd be happy to send it to you. It's jpar@bcps.org.
And there it is on the screen. So we've got contact information for both of our presenters right up there on the screen now. And I see that one of our, in the Q&A, someone has added their email address. So we will make a note of that and get that information to you. Do you see it, Joey?
I just have to move the screen up a little bit to find it.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay, we'll grab it for you. All right. All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap things up here then. Thank you again so much for joining us this evening.